The town of Berlin. Country charm at the center of Connecticut.
Call this meeting of the Town Council to order, please. Thank you. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Angelica Stetson.
Here.
Councilor Giannone.
Here.
Mayor Kaczynski.
Here.
Councilor Letty.
Here.
Councilor Pagliaro.
Here.
Councilor Payanessa.
Here.
Councilor Rosso.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. So our first thing on the agenda is we have an audience of citizens, so if anyone wishes to speak to the council about any topic before us tonight or before us at any point or whatever you want to say, you're certainly welcome to come up at this point in time. So, yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. I didn't sign up to speak. My name is Gennaro Bizzarro. I reside at 440 Shuttle Meadow Avenue in New Britain, and I am the state senator for the 6th District, and in that capacity, I do represent Berlin. I just wanted to comment this evening on one of the items on your agenda, and that is the resolution regarding tolls. I think most of you in this room know my position on tolls. I am adamantly opposed to the implementation of tolls, primarily because it would constitute a brand new revenue stream, and at the risk of alienating some of my newfound colleagues up at the Capitol, I don't know that I trust anybody up there with a new revenue stream right now. Historically, I have not seen anything that would suggest to me that the state can be entrusted with these newfound dollars. So I am opposed for that reason. But I want to commend the council for taking this important issue up. And I just want to be on record in rebuttal to most public opinion in the way of considering this to be nothing more than a symbolic gesture. I think it is anything but that. I have seen municipalities around this state for years pass resolutions that were entirely symbolic in nature, resolutions on things such as the council's position on a foreign war or immigration, federal immigration policy, or some other federal issue that had nothing to do with Connecticut, where the resolution would get passed and maybe the local paper would publish something, some blurb on it, but that's it. Nobody would pay attention. In contrast, sharp contrast, what you are doing tonight is going to resonate. Either way, not sure how the council will vote on it, but I promise you that all of the legislators across the state and the governor are paying attention as each of the municipalities around the state that are taking up this issue are articulating their position to the governor. I have watched in the days since my election this very important issue turn, and I have seen the tide turn. I have seen the framework of the debate change significantly. I see efforts on both sides to try to at least bridge the gap or figure out if there is a way to bridge the gap. So I think it's very meaningful. I think your voices are being heard. I don't think it's symbolic at all because there will be a direct impact on the town of Berlin depending on where these tolling gantries are located. Your roads are at risk. So anyway, I want to commend the council for taking up this important issue. And I would urge you to continue the fight against tolls. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's up to flying stuff.
Yes, sir. Oh, go ahead.
Samuel Maglio, 78 Hickory Hill Road. I came here to talk about, the Board of Finance met a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the police cells. And I remember we had a conversation about the locker rooms. So we weren't really sure what the problem was at the locker rooms, so we did some investigative work. And I know Delaney told us that after it's done, whatever monies we have, we're going to put towards the locker rooms, hopefully. But the Board of Finance, we decided that this is an important issue, so we're coming here to the council to say, let's do the locker rooms now for a lot of reasons. Number one, I think, you know, Mr. Mayor, we talked about it, the ventilation and everything, and the lockers itself is so small. It's like a high school locker. Police are suffering. And the fact that apparently these bulletproof vests have to be stored at a certain temperature, and when they put them on, they might have mold, they might not work. They really don't know. There hasn't been a study. And so I talked to the chief of police about it, and he said it's a highly concerned that we don't know how these vests are holding up in these temperatures. I mean, in the summertime, they say the locker room's like 100 degrees. So what we propose on the Board of Finance, if the council will move on it as soon as possible, I don't know if we have to get an architect or whatever, we're prepared to fund it. We're prepared to fund the architect or whatever it is to draw up the plans, and we're prepared to move on it as soon as possible. We'd like to see if we can get this done during the summertime at the same time of the police cells, because it's a priority. And since we probably can move some money around, because we all know Delaney's got something hidden somewhere all the time. I mean, let's be honest about it. So we know we can move some money around or take some money out of the general fund, and we don't think it's, somebody quoted like 200,000. I don't know if it's a correct figure, but whatever the figure is, I think the town could afford to do that, and we're ready to take action immediately if the council can move on it. It'll make the police happy, and everybody will the locker rooms will be safe and nice and cool for them.
Yeah, no, I
what do you
know.
think?
I've talked to the union about that, and they know that's on the plans with the cells. So I don't know when the cells are starting, but
I guess they're being made right now.
yeah.
So
we're going to kind of do it in conjunction, and we'll have to ask.
because we're ready. I mean, we talked about it. We figured let's just do it all at once and forget about it.
That was always the plan, but
That was the plan.
A lot of it's HVAC work. I know that's a lot of it, right? Because it's not air
Yeah.
conditioned in the men's locker room. I think the women's might be air conditioned. I'm not sure, but.
I think.
Let's talk to our facilities. Doug
let's move on it and
see what
and
we need
you know
to
let's
do.
just move on it and get this done, whatever it takes.
I mean, it might have to be done in conjunction with the cells just because of the
Yeah, that's
HVAC work,
perfect.
because we have to change the HVAC in the cells too.
Yeah.
But that's why I think we're doing it in conjunction, but we'll figure it out.
But according to Mr. Delaney, he figures there might be $25,000 left over. He's not sure. And so why wait for that $25,000? Let's front the money, and if we do get $25,000, we could always put it back into the general fund or wherever, or put it towards another project. And it's such a little project that I don't think we should wait on it and just move on it. So if
Yeah.
you guys want to start moving on it and get some action going.
Before we do, let me talk to, unfortunately, the town manager had a family emergency. He's not here tonight, and Doug's not here, so I'd want to talk to
Yeah.
the facilities just to see, to Doug, what it entails, because I think that's the whole purpose of doing it together was because the HVAC was tied in with
Exactly.
both. So
So why wait? Let's just get it done.
I don't think we are waiting. I think we're going
No,
to do it
according
together
to
with the cells.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
So we're getting all these conflicted stories.
Yeah.
According to Mr. Delaney, he said that we were going to wait till the cells were over. We said no, let's just try to do it. And that's why I came here to see what the
I'm
plan
not sure
was.
that's really the plan, but so we'll
Yeah, we're not sure either, so we figured
all right, we'll
we'd
get
move
it
on
straight.
All right, thank
Get
you.
it straight. Yeah,
Thank you.
sounds good. Yes.
Dave Evans, 1233 Worthington Ridge here in our great town of Berlin. Sometime back, so I had some scouts lined up in front of you, and we brought a few back this evening. And
Actually wanted to come back.
they did.
Make 'em come.
Well, I don't know. There might have been a little arm twisting, but the intent, and I wanted to clarify a little bit that they were looking to see issues discussed. Now, that doesn't mean that there has to be polar opposing differences in the issues there. So the issue could be, hey, I want to go about it this way, or I want to try a little bit differently here. So one of the interesting topics that I wanted to share with you, and there's just a little question behind it that I think the staff will be able to address, was around this turf field that you're going to consider this evening. And there was very inquisitive young scouts that quizzed your staff on what's going to happen there, but they did ask how they could be involved in it, or whether it's through communications or even physical labor. And I heard, and in their interviews they talked about being able to reuse some of the turf field, and I believe that's in there, and then maybe some explanation from staff on how that's going to be, and how there may be involvement or just communication of that to help people know that we are recycling, reusing some of the things that that we've used over time and can be reused in a great way. So. On a second note, again on the tolls, I've seen in the past different taxes placed on individuals within the state of Connecticut with intended purposes, and then it goes awry and it's to get utilized in different locations, including some of the funds that we collect from some of our the gambling institutions in the state of Connecticut, where those funds were intended for education and got moved around, didn't actually always end up there. So careful what you place additional taxes are, and careful where they are spent, and I hope that the council will send the right message this evening that would help us understand specifically where our tolls, if they were put in place, would go on the counter, whether they would actually be necessary or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. We'll maybe cover the turf issue when we get to that agenda item, but I did hear you say free labor you were talking about? Oh, so maybe we can save some tax dollars there. Any other,
Big Eagle project.
yeah, right, that could be the next Eagle project. Any other comments? Yes, sir. Yes, John.
John O'Brien, Vineyard Drive. I want to talk a little bit about the municipal garage, the wash bay for the town trucks when they go out and they plow our streets, salt our streets. They're working in pretty hazardous conditions. They have to wash the frames down to prolong the life of the frames. They're working 5, 10, 15 degree weather. It's nothing but a skating rink. They slip, slide, all it, from what I can see, it's what it would take is bringing up a block wall on one side, 2 garage doors. I believe it was in for last year, and basically it was taken out of the budget. And this year here, I know the town's scraping for money, but I wish that you could reconsider. It's a safety. If somebody slips, falls, gets hurt, there's a liability on the town side. Again, put yourself in these people's place. 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, freezing cold. Well, we're sitting in a nice warm house or office building, and they're out there freezing, slipping and sliding. It's not a good, work environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just to address that, John, I don't know about the washing side of it, but the thing that came up in the budget this year was the roof was leaking. And that will be fixed because although I read in the paper something different, as I recall, our last council meeting, before we did reduce it out of the budget, we asked about the LoCIP grant that we are 99% sure we're getting this month. So when we get that grant, that will go to fix the leak in the garage roof. We asked that very clearly at the last council meeting before we voted, or the one before we voted to remove that from the budget. So we're not going to let it rain on our municipal employees. I don't know the car wash issue, but if that's a different issue, Jim, just while or the truck wash? Yes, please. While we're talking about it, just so we get the facts out there. I don't remember that in the budget, but.
The truck wash bays are located at the highway department, not the municipal garage.
Okay.
It's in the municipal complex. So they're on the south side of the highway garage. It is an open area in which they wash outside using a large diameter hose that allows them to flush out the bodies and the frames. It is exterior. There is a roof over it, but there is no walls or doors on it. They actually hang a piece of canvas over it to stop the wind from blowing in when they're out there working.
Okay.
I believe it was in the budget a few years ago to enclose or make some improvements over there. I don't know what transpired, why it was taken out of the budget, and why it wasn't pushed to keep into the budget, but that's what it is. So for the maintenance of the plow trucks or the maintenance of anything, because it's used year-round, when the trucks go out and they apply the chemicals on the street, the next day they come in, they completely flush out the trucks and flush out the bodies and the frames, and then we re-grease them, make sure that the bearings don't lock up and things like that. So during the winter time, they are outside and they are washing those trucks outside.
Okay.
But that's located at the Highway Department, the DPW.
It's on the other side there. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have to look at that, Jim. Bring it forward again. It wasn't in this year's budget, right? Was it in this year's budget?
Probably outside the 10-year plan.
Okay. All right. We'll check on that. Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the audience of citizens, and we'll move on to new business. Topic number 1 is our report from our Housing Authority. We have Mr. Bajorski here. Thanks for coming, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know we've asked you here. Obviously, we've always asked you to give us updates along the way.
Yes.
And we had a lot of concern, obviously, when we had our last meeting at the senior center. We had a lot of questions, so rather than us fumble through it, we figured we'd get
I appreciate the offer to
facts from you.
Yeah, give you some facts. All right, Joe Bajorski, 80 Butternut Lane, Chairman of the Housing Authority. Basically, we had a meeting in January with the Department of Housing. The acting director at that point in time, she was a holdover from the Malloy administration. I would say the meeting was not productive. Their focus at the time was family housing, which is their new term for affordable housing. They were not interested in looking at elderly or age-restricted housing. Just so you know, the way the funding process works, there's a score sheet. So each component of the housing project gets a certain score. The way they were handling at that point in time, if we age-restricted the property, they would give us negative points, which would pretty much assure that we wouldn't get funded for the project. So the purpose of our meeting was to kind of persuade them otherwise, and we were not successful in that venue, or in that venture, I should say. Since that time, there's been a new commissioner of housing put into place. Her name is Sila Mascara Bruno. We've been advised post her appointment to go ahead and file an application. So I consider that to be a positive development, and that occurred within the last 2 weeks. So we are heading in that direction. The application needs to be filed by November 1st. So I've instructed the development team to go ahead and get everything in process to file the application on a timely basis. Pretty much everything's done. It's just a matter of updating everything and moving it forward. Last week, the HUD also announced the availability of 202 funds, which is another funding stream from the federal government that doesn't require any kind of issues with age restrictions or otherwise. And we could develop the whole project through the federal funds without the interaction of the Connecticut Department of Housing. So we're also exploring that venture. They have a webinar scheduled for April 25th. So we're going to look at, maybe taking advantage of that process and, cutting the Connecticut Department of Housing out of the equation. So can't really give you much more information on that program as of this point in time because the webinar hasn't occurred. So I'm not sure what the actual parameters of their program are. I believe we should fit into it, because we have in the past. Marjorie Moore is a HUD project voucher program, so we can go in that direction. So we're basically pursuing 2 funding mechanisms at this point in time. If we go with the low-income housing tax credits through the Department of Housing, application dates November 1st. I keep calling it March for some reason. November 1st, and at that point, they'll make awards in March. So we should know something by March of 20 on the state side. On the federal side, I'll know more after the 25th.
Okay, that's great. So just so we don't misspeak, so the HUD, we understand the federal money, obviously is a separate program. The State Housing Authority, I take it there's some federal funds through them too, or no? Or is it just all state money?
There's various different tranches, but the bulk of the money comes through the state. It's through low-income housing tax credits. So utilities and other corporations buy tax credits, and that money they use to purchase the tax credits goes into a pool of money that the state administers to fund these projects. Okay, so that has no federal money connection? Not in that specific pot. In that specific pot, If we, like I said, there's going to be various different tranches where we're going to, let's say it's a $14 million build. Maybe 10 million is going to come from that low-income housing tax credit program. The remaining 4 million is going to come from various different sources. So Federal Home Loan Bank, maybe some HUD monies, because they have different programs that we can qualify for. There might be some, private institutional monies available as well. The problem is you just can't borrow $10 million. So that's where the low-income housing tax credits come into play, because it allows us to get that money without having the debt service on top of it. Makes the project affordable.
Wow. Okay, so can you come back to us after that HUD program too? Just
Sure.
see if that's something we might be able to take advantage of. I mean, I know we've been waiting and working. You have, I know we've all been
This is
trying to get it done. I know it's been a
This has
very
been a slog. Again, with changes in government up at the state and their priority, it was not, it was not a happy day for us. But their focus is family development, and they're looking to put all their money into, or it was, I should say. I haven't met with the new commissioner, but apparently things have changed because we were told to go ahead and file. So whether they're giving us, some ability to go in and file and get funded because we predated this whole change in focus, or whether they're changing their focus now, going in a different direction, I don't know. But we were told to go ahead and file, so we're filing.
So did we ever go ahead based upon that new focus? And remember, we were that new focus was talking about a different one bedrooms, because we had so many.
We have not done anything.
We didn't change anything
No.
to the original plan?
No.
Okay.
No. My focus is to provide elderly affordable housing, because that's where the demand is.
Yep.
If you look at our demographic studies, that's where the growth in the population is going to be over the next 10, 15 years. There really is a lack of affordable housing in the town when it comes to housing choices for the elderly, and we're looking at, not only this project, but also working with private developers to kind of, get some additional housing options out there to the public. So my focus is basically to stick to elderly affordable. We've done some work collaboratively with private developers in terms of workforce housing. So, we do have various different components of the age range of affordability coming into this town. But I'd like to get some more elderly onto the market.
Great. That's all of our hopes too. So, what you guys have questions for Joe while he's here?
I have a question. Considering that webinar will be the 25th, will you be back in May to give us more direction as to what your plans are? I'd prefer not to have to wait until November.
I'd have to sit down with our development team, post the webinar, and see if that's something that we're going to pursue or not. So once we have that meeting.
Is that a no, that you won't be back in May?
I can't promise you I'll be back in May, but probably June.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we
As
just.
soon as we make a decision, you'll be notified of that decision. But I can't say it's going to be May.
All right. Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming, and we appreciate as much updates as possible, because we all have worked on this for. I mean, I can't remember when. I don't know how many years ago we approved that plan. I'm planning.
It's been 7 years now.
7 years? Yeah. Okay. So. But I understand the obstacles we had with the easement. You and I worked on that closely for, I think, 2 years probably to get that stupid easement straightened out with the state. That took forever. And now then we ran into the financing issues. So hopefully we get back on track
Hopefully.
soon and help our senior population. So.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
Any questions? You guys have my phone number. Feel free to call. I'd be more than happy to,
Quick question, is there any limit on private funding for something like this, based on the HUD requirements?
The limit is basically the debt service. It makes the project not affordable for a target audience. It would make it a market rate property. So once it becomes a market rate property, it really doesn't fall into the affordability category. So the way they work around that is through these housing tax credits, because it's basically free money. We're not paying debt service on it. So that allows us to offer lower rents.
How many units are in that project? 50?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, not enough, but something better than what we have now. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Kate. Are we on number 2?
The next item will be with Jim Simons concerning it's the fire administrator. It's Jim Simons as far as the software for the fire department.
Chief Pager.
Welcome back.
Hat on?
Yeah. Okay.
So we're talking about the firehouse reporting software, which allows the fire department to record and report all of its incidents to the state fire marshal's office, through local fire marshal's office, and to the national fire reporting system. It also allows us to track our paid on call and other programs that we have in town. The current system that we have is Firehouse software, and we've had that system for many, many years. Firehouse software has been sold and parted out a few times, and it's becoming more difficult to find or to receive any support from the company. So one of our chiefs, Chief Pager, took it upon, came to the Board of Fire Chiefs and said, let's go out and start doing some research on this. So they went out and they began doing research on this, and they came back with a cloud-based system which helps us in a bunch of different ways. The cloud-based system goes along with our business continuity. It goes along and allows us to have some of that information, or all of that information, in our trucks when we were responding to calls and completing reports on scene. So as he went out and he began to look at this, we looked at Firehouse software and going cloud-based with that, and then we looked at this other system and Firehouse programs, and we came up with this Red MX, which we call Red Alert, and that system will seem to work the best for us. We also found out, since we began this project, that 2 of our surrounding towns that we have mutual aid plans with also were on this system, got away from Firehouse software. So it came back to the fire chiefs and was approved that we'd move forward with it. So it was a task to find some money. Well, there is some money that we have stashed away. I don't want to say stashed away, but there is money that is in a fire apparatus and equipment account. It's a 500 account that we felt that we could utilize that and bring forward the project to you for possible approval to allow us to go to a cloud-based system for this and update our programs. So that's why we're here.
Great, thanks. Questions for Mr. Simons? Hearing none, sounds like something we need to do, Jim, obviously, from what you've told us, so. And since we found the funding, even better. So, you guys want to have a couple motions to make? If we have any other comments, we can make them after the motions.
Okay. Good. First one, I will move to approve the transfer of $22,930 from the Vehicle Reserve Account to Other Funds Account for the purchase of new administrative software for the fire departments.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion 2.
Okay, I move to waive the town's purchasing requirements and purchase Alpine software model Red NMX for the fire department for an amount not to exceed $22,930, since this is in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Second on that. Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, what do we got? You
My hat's now.
got more? Yeah, we got more. You're still here. That's good. That's good. Number 3.
The next one is actually for Public Works Department, which encompasses both the Highway Department and Public Grounds, or Parks and Rec Department. A number of years ago, some money was budgeted and put into an account for a Bobcat attachment. And a Bobcat is a small tractor that's used in a construction site. The original thought back then was they were going to get a asphalt pounder or grinder, which actually mills the little section of asphalt between where new asphalt's going and old asphalt's going. And we felt that at that time, after re-looking at that probably would not be the best attachment for our piece of machinery and for our use, for a number of reasons. It'll beat up the machine. It won't be used as much. It has a very limited use on it. So the money sat there. Parks Department has a need for I'll call it a rock rake, power rake, which actually goes to the front of the Bobcat and allows them, when they go out and they replant areas, that it goes through and it actually breaks the rocks out of them, sorts them out, and makes it plantable. So Mr. Karp, the superintendent of Parks and And Highway Department also felt that this was a piece of equipment that would be usable when they redo the roads and they're doing the backfilling of roads and things like that, or drainage ditches. So they brought it to me, and here we are. We got obtained pricing from Bobcat of Connecticut for the piece of equipment and a tilt attachment, which allows the piece of equipment to tilt as it goes down the uneven surfaces that you would find in washways and things like that.
Okay. Great. And you found the funding for this too?
They actually had funding for that.
Yeah. And they just
Come out of
never,
my account.
just never used it.
Just never used it.
Yeah.
Correct.
I know.
Good. Okay. All right, so we'll take a motion on this.
Okay. Move to waive the town's purchasing requirements and approve the purchase of one power landscape rake attachment and one tilt hitch from Bobcat in an amount not to exceed $10,415.48, as this is in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any further questions for Mr. Simons, council? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Number 4. We have our artificial turf field replacement. Who's coming up? Somebody come?
It's going to be Jennifer. Yeah, it's
Yes.
going to be Jen.
Here we are, Jen.
Jen will come up, and also,
Steve?
and Steve Wood will be up.
Steve, okay.
Little height difference here. So you guys know Steve. Steve and I have been spearheading this project from the beginning, and he's fantastic to work with, so that's been awesome. We also have Luke McCoy here. Luke is from Castle Boost. They've been our design and engineering firm throughout this process, and they will stay with us until the end of it to make sure everything stays on schedule and on par with what we have planned and what we have put in for the bid specs. As you can see from the agenda item, we have decided to go with Field Turf USA. They are one of the most prominent companies out there. They've done about 20,000 fields in their business lifespan. Very professional product, very durable product. They will follow the specs from our bid was very specific, so they will follow the specs. They'll go through all the testing and everything, and that's what Luke is here to make sure that that happens throughout the whole project. So bottom line, there's 3 of us here. If you guys have questions, we'll answer specific questions.
Well, I'm glad you're here. We're glad we're finally proceeding. It's been a long time in coming, and we're glad to finally get started with it, right?
Yes.
I know we had the time frame was where we're going to try and get it done by, what, the end of August, is it?
Middle of August.
Middle of August.
Plan to break ground right in the beginning of June, as soon as the high school sports are done.
Okay. That's great. I mean, we've certainly talked about this topic a lot, and I'm glad we're finally here to start it, so you guys have other questions?
I just thought maybe, because we talked about it at the field committee, some of the thoughts that were going on, there was a state law that was proposed or discussion about outlawing these kinds of fields right in the middle of our bidding for this process. And I know you guys spent some time researching other types of field that really weren't financially a good idea. There's a lot of information about new kinds of fields that, not enough studies about the kinds of material being used. So I thought maybe you can maybe fill in everybody else, some information about that.
He knows I'm calling on him.
Okay. Luke McCoy, principal with Castle Boost. We're out of New Britain, Connecticut. So yes, that was the start of the process, was sitting down and going through the various different systems available for the community for the field. Much like a car, when you go buy a car, you may buy it from the same company, or it may be a new Honda Accord that you already have, but they're upgraded and they're changed. Same things happened with fields since yours went in almost 15 years ago. A lot's changed. So part of the process was going through all of the different systems, including the infills that are available, and then also field visits and seeing some of these products installed in place so that we can go through. So we did go through a number of them. Basically, they're down to 2 different types of categories. One is man-made infill products or recycled products. The other is organic or natural. What you have currently out there is in the man-made or recycled type product. It's all crumb rubber, SBR rubber, which is recycled tires inside of the synthetic turf. We went and looked at those. We looked at coated crumb rubber. We looked at EPDM, which is virgin rubber, TPE, which is a thermoplastic, and then the organics, which are any combination of an acrylic-coated sand, coconut, corn husk, and wood derivatives as well. Some of the drawbacks with the latter, the organic side, is that with this type of a use for a field, there is increased maintenance with those that would come with it. There is also the susceptibility for freezing late in the football season and early in the spring season. So football and soccer in the fall, lacrosse in the spring could be susceptible to issues with the field being frozen because that material can absorb and hold water. So through that process, because of that, the initial cost, and because of the potential of the infill not having the lifespan of the others, those were taken off the list. What we did look at primarily was that the field has performed well over the 14 to 15 years you've had it with the crumb rubber, but the heat effect in the summer is obviously a concern. So what this project has with it now is actually going to an acrylic-coated crumb rubber. So instead of the straight recycled black crumb rubber that you see in a lot, it's a green in color. It's coated with a food-based acrylic coating. What that does is reduce the exposure to the crumb rubber, but it also reduces the heat in the summer months, August in particular when it's sunny, anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees on the field, which is the main concern with that. We also went through, and I won't bore you, but we reviewed the over 50 different studies that have been peer-reviewed on the health and safety concerns of crumb rubber. To answer your question on the state, there was a moratorium that was originally proposed for the banning of synthetic turf in municipalities. That actually never made it out of the committee that it was in, so it's no longer currently on the floor as a bill or to be voted on. Doesn't mean it can't come back in the future, but I myself did meet with that group a couple of times to go through information on it, and there was some confusion in the group about synthetic turf and systems, and out of that, it didn't move forward. So you're lucky that's not going to be an option here. So the only other major change is that the field is constructed now on a stone base. We are integrating what's called a shock pad. What that does is it takes the ability of the infill material in your field, has to act as the performance and safety mechanism in the field. Now what we've done is shifted that safety and some of the performance mechanism to that shock pad that sits below the carpet, so that now you're not having any changes in that effect of safety or performance as the field changes its characteristic, whether it's wet, whether it's cold out, whether you have a ton of games one day and the field needs to be groomed later in the day. The shock pad will guarantee that, and the manufacturer actually writes in for 2 life cycles to guarantee the GMAX, which is the basically the body impact, and the HIC, which is head impact criteria on the turf below the required standards we see for the industry. So that is one benefit you're getting from this replacement process as well.
Great, I appreciate the information. Wanted to get that out there. Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna actually that was actually, Steve had a great idea when this project started. Steve had a great idea when this project started about reusing some of the turf, so that's something we asked during the process. I'm gonna let him kind of tell him what the plan is.
So the plan with some of the field is, and I don't know exactly how much we're going to use, but a lot of the batting cages throughout town, there's a lot of weeds, grasses, and everything that comes up in them, and they become a nightmare to maintain them. So what we'd like to do, depending if they remove the infill or they don't, is, and this is probably where the Boy Scouts could probably give us a hand, is they're going to stockpile and store a good amount of it off in a corner, and then we'll be able to roll it out and cut it in sections and bring it into the bullpen area where permanently to have a synthetic turf base. We don't have to worry about anybody falling on it, but also at the same time it's going to act as a carpet, and no grass, weeds, or anything will come up through it. So I think it'll work beneficial that we won't have to spend the money to go in there, weed whack, spray, and keep up on it. And it'll always have a nice, clean, dry area, and they don't have to worry about mud. And then they can get those temporary pitching rubbers and mats that you see out there now, where they can throw one of those in there, or they'll give them the elevation.
Excellent, good idea.
That's great. So in answer to our question,
yes,
you guys
seeing that the carpet will be removed after school is out, and once field turf stores it off site, we can actually have the Boy Scouts come in, help us one day, and put the stuff in place.
Great.
Awesome. Good.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hey, Dave.
And then the last, I'll just add to the recycling, the materials coming out will either be recycled, reused, or repurposed. So the existing infill or the carpet won't be sent to a landfill from here. And we'll find out from the manufacturers, the process moves forward, they have to submit documentation and tracking of where it goes. But we require on all our projects that nothing goes to a landfill anymore for these projects.
You know, just while you're there, so just all those studies you read, you know, it's in the news a lot, right? So there's never been any conclusive evidence, right? Is that what I understand?
Correct. As of right now, there's been no reports that have been peer reviewed or third party reviewed, which is what we look for. You know, we don't look for first edition because we want to make sure someone else has also reviewed them that's found any concern here or across the nation. We have reports from Europe as well as Netherlands and others who've done similar studies to what we've done here as well.
Great. As long as we want to make sure it's safe while we spend the $1 million and find out next year we have to rip it up. We don't want that to happen. So we appreciate all that work to get to this point. Jen and Steve and yourself, appreciate that. Thanks. Any other questions? So,
Dave, you got that?
Did I answer your question? Yeah. That's good. It's great to recycle all that stuff, so that's great. All right, so no further questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll take a motion.
Okay, I move to authorize the town manager, Jack Healy, to enter into a contract with Field Turf USA, Inc. for the replacement of the artificial turf at Scalise Field in an amount not to exceed $974,396, which includes a $50,000 contingency.
Second on that.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on this? Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks.
This next
Yeah,
item,
thanks a lot.
this has to do with the just the cleaning of the catch basins, and it's done every year. And also, this is going to the low bidder.
Okay. Yeah, we do this all the time, right?
Yeah.
A bit short and simple.
Yeah. That's good. That's good, Kate. We like that. Okay, so if we have any other questions on this, something we do every year. It's a low bidder. Have we used them before? Do we know?
I don't know that.
I know I don't mean to put you on the
Yeah.
spot, Kate. I know you're filling in. I apologize, but
I'm going to say that I've seen the name before, but I don't know if it's for this.
okay.
I can't. All right.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and take
Okay, I move to approve utilizing Shaw Vac Services LLC for the purpose of catch basin cleaning at the unit price of $19 per basin through December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 6.
On item number 6, they do this every year too. It's simply for the guardrail replacement and repair, and they use the state DAS contract to get the least expensive contractor. All right. They're going to go back and forth between 2 vendors on this. They've done that in the past also. All right, and it's usually as far as whatever task they have to do at that time. They'll compare the prices of the 2 vendors, and at that point come up with the most cost-effective.
Okay. Any questions? Further questions? Hearing none, we'll take a motion.
Okay, move to award a bid and authorize the town manager to enter into a unit price contract to purchase guide rail repair and installation services utilizing the state DAS contract number 18 PSX 0147, effective through October 24th, 2023, with the most cost-effective and qualified contractor.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 7.
Item 7 is probably why we have people here. Oh, it has to do with your resolution, if you'd like to talk about the tolls.
Sure. We, yes.
Could we hold this till next time? The author of the resolution isn't here, and I have dozens of questions concerning the content and the writing of this resolution, and I'd feel more comfortable if Jack were here, and I'd be able to ask him, you know, if that's not a big deal, just asking for an accommodation.
I mean, we actually had some changes to it. We were actually gonna ask to amend it, which might take away some of your concerns, perhaps.
So if we're gonna amend it, why don't we just wait 2 weeks?
Well, we're gonna take a motion tonight to amend it. So we'll have the language in there. It'll be a little bit different language. I mean, pretty similar, just less.
Well,
I prefer not to have.
I'm asking for an accommodation.
see it.
If you don't want to do it, I understand.
Yeah, I mean,
Rather just,
My only hesitation on it is time of the essence. How fast will this move through the legislature? You have more experience at that than anybody.
The legislature moves at the legislature's speed.
What I'm saying is, will 2 weeks affect their decision,
No.
our input?
No, I mean, they adjourn the first Wednesday after the first Monday in June, so, this year. We have time.
well, let's, so we might alleviate some of the concerns, at least let's get a motion and an amendment, at least on the record, so we know what language we could be talking about.
Do you have a copy to share with us so that it's not
Just-
just
We,
verbal?
well, it's gonna be verbal, but it'll be in the record. It's really just.
Nothing we can read, though.
Well, no, not tonight, because we just
So,
want to make a motion. Well, it's most of the language that's here, so you'll see when we make the motion.
so basically, you're saying let's just do the amendment, vote it, even though Peter's questions won't be answered.
Well, they may be when we make.
Why don't we just have a discussion before we do the amendment?
We can do that too,
And let's do that.
whatever you like. What would you like to discuss?
Tell us about what you think you need to change in this.
Well, we would do that with the language, we just wanted to shorten it, actually. We're talking about taking out some of the wording. Like if you look at the go-by that we have, Mr. Healy, we would take out the second, I think, paragraph, third paragraph.
yes.
And what were we thinking of leaving in? 4, 5, and 6? I know they're not numbered on this, right?
Want to just read it and we can follow along?
Yeah, let's just read what we would propose. Just gonna read it?
Okay, I'm going to read the proposed amended resolution. Whereas the governor and members of the General Assembly have indicated their support for the replacement of tolls on Connecticut's roadways. I'm going to skip the next 2 paragraphs and go, whereas the implementation of tolls result in a significant increase in the amount of traffic on Berlin's roadways as drivers attempt to avoid the cost burden from tolls on the aforesaid major roadways. Can keep the next paragraph, whereas the increased volume of traffic from trucks, automobiles, and other vehicles throughout our town would negatively impact the safety of our residents and visitors to our town, reduce property values, and increase the town's costs for services and roadway maintenance and repairs. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council of the town of Berlin is opposed to the imposition of tolls and urges the governor and its elected representatives in the General Assembly to oppose any measure that would impose tolls as an additional burden on the Berlin residents. So we shortened it a little bit, took out some paragraphs, trying to make it as simple and easy to understand.
So the language really didn't change much, other than we shortened it to those 4 paragraphs.
There's not even any studies to support any of this.
I know, it's completely baseless.
It's just
Totally baseless.
I'm not sure it's baseless. I mean, I think
It is, that's my opinion.
No, and that's great. I mean, and I would argue against that as the council of the town, we certainly have a right to speak on this, having had residents speak to me about it. And I think it's, obviously it's everybody's opinion on tolls. I certainly get that part, but there is a concern of how it would affect our town. I mean, many other towns have passed resolutions similar, concerned about
how it would affect
Yeah,
their town.
that's all understood.
And as information, we certainly understand it's not binding, but it is through the council talking to our legislators, which is something I think we should do as a council. I understand that everybody in town may agree, but,
Or may disagree.
and people may disagree. That's certainly true. We're not,
Excuse me, what type of study would show that a bill sent to someone isn't an added burden?
Excuse me, I'm.
What type of study would you want to see that would tell us that a bill presented by the state to a resident is not a burden?
About, Charles, what I'm talking about is the increased volume of traffic from trucks, automobiles, and vehicles throughout the town would impact the safety. Plus, it will result in a significant increase in the amount of traffic. Do we have any studies that will show? I mean, right now, from what I'm knowing, there's no tolls on the Berlin Turnpike. It's just the merit. So.
I've read many
No.
news articles. I have no
The only two that
definitive.
I know of that we're seeing no tolls on.
I have no definitive
Go through our town.
location of the tolls, but the federal government forbids tolling other than for congestive reasons. The federal government will only allow the tolls during in an area where it's congested during rush hours. So that would be the Berlin Turnpike area would be affected because 91 was basically a replacement for the Berlin Turnpike. So if they toll 91, we would add traffic to the Berlin Turnpike.
My question is, what are the results of the studies conducted by the legislature in passing the two committees that they took into account thus far? What are the studies showing by the two committees that passed it?
I haven't heard. Have you heard?
They haven't.
Right.
They haven't done a study, and they passed them forward. And so, this is a resolution. I think, in my opinion, personally, we're getting hung up on increased volume or not. Most people in our town, in my opinion, don't want tolls, and I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't.
I know that, Alex.
I know. I mean, how
just
do you know the
curious
majority
about
of
how you
people?
I don't know that. I said I'm of the opinion.
You said most people. You said you're.
I said I'm of the opinion that most people in town don't want tolls. That's my opinion. I understand you have your adverse opinion, but that's my opinion, and I believe that people don't want to pay more for driving on our roads, and that's where I think this resolution is important, in my opinion.
I think it's a waste of.
As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, to me this is a big ruse. Governor Malloy, a couple years ago, mentioned that every new tax revenue since 2011 goes right to pay the pension benefits of our state workers and the teachers and other post-employment benefits. So my fear a couple weeks ago is that this was just about to raise money to borrow against. And Governor Lamont said that last week. And he proved me right. It didn't take a rocket science to figure that out. So I am totally against the tolls. I don't care if it was a Republican or a Democrat proposition. It's a bad idea in the state of economy of Connecticut right now. So to me, the resolution sends a message to our leaders above us that where are the cost savings in other parts of the government that some of our people ran against or for. Our Speaker of the House ran for going to Hartford many years ago for coming up with public-private partnerships or other ways to consolidate to save money. And I can't think of one legislative idea that he's come up with. Everything is about raising taxes, everything. So to me, this was a big ruse. It's a big smokescreen, and we're not also paying attention to the other tax increases that are coming down the pike. So we're all riled up about tolls, and I'm glad, but I hope we pay attention to everything else that's coming down the road.
Peter, what about you?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Go ahead.
If it looks like a duck and squawks like a duck and smells like a duck, it's a duck. And this duck is simply a vehicle to embarrass the Speaker of the House, our state representative, and the governor. If you look at the Republican plan to fund our road infrastructure, they want to borrow. Well, 4 of my friends here have been moaning about borrowing and bonding for the last 3 months. The only alternative is for tolls. Now, I see stuff here I don't recognize. I'm a creature of the legislature. There's no bill alive now that says where the tolls are going to go. There may be an amendment to return 1/10 of 1% to the town to repair the roads if they're impacted. So this is like the amendment or the resolution we were asked to vote on a couple of months ago, where Aetna and CVS threatened us they were going to leave the state if we didn't urge our State Department of Insurance to approve their merger. Well, tough beans. And this is similar. I mean, this is nothing more than a political ploy. And for a newly elected senator to come here and talk about this one single issue, not thanking everybody, not saying he's going to look forward to representing us, that proves to me it's a political issue. So let's call it what it is.
I agree completely. If it looks like a duck, it is a duck. It's a tax. I don't care what name you give it. A tax is a tax. And every day my trucks pull into a gas station and we pay a road user tax to the state of Connecticut to improve our roads. But the people in Hartford use that money for something else. So they want to free that money up from what it was initially promised for and replace it with the toll money, another tax.
Stay on the eastern seaboard that doesn't have tolls.
We should be proud of it.
We should be proud of that. We have the highest fuel tax on the eastern seaboard.
And we pay for everyone else's roads. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
We get a lot of money back from the federal government for the highway maintenance that we won't get when we impose the tolls. And is this a play to hire more public employees? You know, you talked about our state rep, the Speaker of the House. He's employed by that union. Is this just to get more union members? I don't know. You talk about political maneuvers.
I can remember Governor Malloy, before he left, sent an executive orders to spend up to $10 million to do a study. Where'd that money go? Did they spend $10 million? Who's got it? Are they living in Bermuda right now? Nobody knows. Nobody asked the question. I haven't heard it or read it in the newspaper. I think it's kind of outrageous. I think the new Senator Gennaro is the only one that ran against tolls. It was a topic. And I think there's other people that ran and avoided it and didn't say anything. They got reelected. Now they're jamming it down everybody's throat, along with every other tax increase that's going to really hurt a lot of people here in Berlin and Southington. So it's just a resolution. It's not binding, but I think it sends a loud message.
Yeah, and I also want to echo, Senator Bizzarro ran his campaign, and the major tenet of his campaign was a referendum on tolls, and being involved with him, not directly, but being involved with him and helping him, I know that thousands of doors were knocked on in the town of Berlin, and thousands of people uttered the same thing. We don't want tolls. This is one of those things that I think it transcends party lines, too. There's a lot of Democrats that don't want this. There's people who live in Connecticut because it's a quaint town or a quaint state, and part of that quaint feeling is they don't have tolls where you're being charged at every exit you take. You know, the Mass Pike was built around tolls. It was built for that specific purpose, and that's the only highway in Massachusetts that has it. So far, the plan hasn't been solidified, but the governor has said that it's going to be on 3 highways in our state, and 2 of which actually run through our town. You know, I congratulate Mr. Bizzarro for coming here. I think it's a good thing to do to have our elected officials, regardless of whatever party, be coming here to support whatever they feel is important to them. I don't think I saw the previous senator here once since I've been here. So again, I just want to say thank you for coming, and again, I want to just kind of reiterate, I am not in favor of tolls.
So may I ask you a question? You said that the governor's plan says there's going to be 3 highways and that they run through Berlin. So can you share which ones run through Berlin?
Route 9?
That wasn't one of the ones that he cited as having tolls?
Didn't he say Route 9, 84, 91, and...
No, from what I've
15?
heard, 91, 84,
and 15.
95. I hadn't heard 9. And 15 was the merit, so it was actually 4, but not through Berlin from what
So
I
that
understood.
there is a plan and a concrete plan as to where they're going to be, or
That's what I've heard. Do you guys have heard that as well, or read that as
that's the thing, is we don't want them anywhere in the state, and most specifically Berlin. So we still don't even know where they're going to be. But I would say we don't
Interstate
want them.
highways, I don't think it'd be an interior like 9 or...
So how can we be against them if we don't know where they are?
Exactly.
I mean,
Doesn't matter where they are.
if we go with the Republican plan to borrow money, they're going to borrow billions of dollars, all of which the state of Connecticut residents will have to repay. If it's a toll, 40% will be paid by the residents, 60% by out-of-staters. So you're telling me it's better we pay 100% of billions of dollars rather than 40% of whatever this is going to cost. Is that the logic?
No, because every time you go to the grocery store, you're going to be paying some of that toll. Everything you touch is brought by truck.
How do you know that?
Yeah.
What do you use that isn't brought by truck?
Well, when I go to another state, can we have some water in here?
Yes, please.
When I go to another state, I travel miles on a highway, and then you're taxed by county. You're not taxed by going to the grocery store.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
No, stop. No,
Any-
please.
Any cost to the trucking is reflected in the cost of the product, is my point. It doesn't say this is a toll in the grocery store, but if it costs more to bring that product to the grocery store, if it costs more to bring that fuel oil to your home, that cost is going to be passed on to the consumer.
So again, it's okay to pay 100% of billions of dollars rather than 40% of what you'll pay in tolls. Pay for the road repair. Everyone agrees the roads have to be replaced.
I agree.
The infrastructure,
There's been no effort by our legislature to cut costs whatsoever. There's been no cost-saving measures proposed, just more taxes. We've just gone through the 2 biggest tax increases in the history of the state, and now our new governor wants to add more taxes.
Well-
How much of our income is agreeable? Should we just mail them 80%, 90% of our income?
Well,
What's the right amount we should?
I'm asking you a simple question. Is 40% pay better than 100%? That's my question.
Yeah, Peter, that's
all I'm asking.
That's a different discussion because
No, it isn't.
the resolution doesn't say anything about borrowing money.
Well, I didn't write the resolution.
No, and what were your questions? Were your questions answered by what Mark reduced from this so intelligent resolution?
Oh, that's nice comment.
Well, I asked for an accommodation to hold it. You're going to do what you're going to do.
Well, the other thing too, you always want to politicize things, I guess. And of course, if you're going to do that, that's what you like to do. But Democratic town councils have passed this and Republican town councils have passed it. So I really think it's an issue, maybe an issue in the headlines in the state and the legislature party lines. I don't know. And I don't know what the Republican plan really is. But I do know that I want to say 70 to 80% of our highway funding comes from the federal government. I do know that. And I also know that about the only thing this year, from what I've read, that Congress may agree upon with the President and Congress is that they want to do some infrastructure funding for the whole country. And I know we're waiting on to see what they come up with. So, most of the funding comes from the federal government. I don't know what we've done with it in the past, but that's where it's come from. So, why we're going to impose more taxes on the residents, I don't know. It just seems like it's endless. And I think it will, and I think in the resolution, we're talking about Berlin. We're talking about how it may affect Berlin. It may not affect Berlin. We don't know that. But this is not binding. This is just a message to our representatives, which is our right to do, last time I checked, as a council. We have a right to speak to our representatives, whether it's individually, which I do all the time, or whether it's up here on the council. We can send messages to them in many different ways, and I think we do. This is just another vehicle to send a message about what we're thinking Berlin wants. And I said not everybody agrees. We understand that. But I think the sentiment in the town, and I've been asked many times, like, what do you think about that? Well, we can say something. It's non-binding. It's just some advice we're giving our legislators. I don't see the harm in it. If that's people's sentiment, obviously it's not in our control. We understand that. But we're just sending some information
to our representatives. As, you know, they work for us as well, all of us in Berlin. So, you know, we can wait until the legislature votes, and then, of course, we have no voice. So, I think while we have a time to send something to them and just say, hey, this is what our opinion is, they'll take it for what it's worth, obviously, Peter, we know that, but it's worth sending them some opinion.
Thank you.
Anything else? What else? All right, so we had language, we read the language just for purpose of discussion, so we would now...
I'm going to move to adopt the attached Berlin Town Council anti-toll resolution as amended, and we'll get that to Kate.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
I ask that the vote be taken by roll.
Okay. So no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Councilor Angelo Costetson,
Nay.
Councilor Giannoni,
Yes.
Councilor Luddy,
Yes.
Councilor Pagliaro,
No.
Councilor Payanessa,
Yes.
Councilor Rosso,
No.
Mayor Kaczynski.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Number 8.
Number 8 is simply the, April is the Fair Housing Month. And again, this is done every year here in Berlin. And this is just to readopt the Fair Housing Resolution, the policy statement, the affirmative action statement, and compliance with the Civil Rights Act.
Do this every year, right?
Yes.
We do it every year. Yep.
Okay, I move to readopt the Fair Housing Resolution, the Fair Housing Policy Statement, the Affirmative Action Policy Statement, and the compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 statement.
Tell them to
Second.
move out of the hallway, if you would. I'm sorry.
Take the stairs. Everybody's waiting for the elevator.
Yeah, 'cause you can't shut the doors. All right, I'm sorry, Kate. Apologize.
That's okay. It's been moved and seconded.
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Number 9.
Number 9 is simply the Lions Club waiver of fees. This is for the Berlin Charity Wine and Beer Tasting Event. It will be held on May 18th, and they're asking for the police fees to be waived. It would be in the amount of $1,500.
Okay. We just, I saw, but I think did you pass this out, this list of, was that in our package, or was it?
It's on our desk.
It was on the desk, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've tried, over the last couple of years to get a little bit of a handle on, what we waive and don't waive, so we know it's maybe not a unlimited amount, so hence list here. Obviously, the Lions Club is, very important to Berlin and is one of our great charities. So, but I just want to, make sure we're aware of, where approximately the fee waivers approved land. So we have a running total here, I guess, for this last year. So we're at, 42,000, I guess, on this list. Did you see this?
Is that the list from?
Yeah, fee waivers and donations approved by council. So I guess that's what we approved
Yep.
up to this point. Okay, so this was just
Does
added.
that include the
Yeah,
waiver of building permit fees?
Oh, that's another one, huh?
No, I think this is, well, I'm not sure.
So, I mean, this was just, I didn't even know what this is. But
We could check, I mean, I don't care.
can check.
We could check another time, but I don't see any, I know we waived several building permits. I don't see it on here.
We have, I can check on that, Peter, because.
That's fine.
I
Next
remember
meeting.
we.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, just add it to the list, right?
Yeah,
Basically,
just so we know.
So we know, I don't know, we've never really set a limit
I mean, I, hesitate to do that, right? I don't think we want to, but we should know.
Right.
Maybe a range in our budget that we know we're not gonna collect 50 grand worth of fees, let's say,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's just, I think, what we always,
And I believe that it's been around a lot of the churches and everything, so it's kind of like, it depending upon if they're doing restoration or whatever, if they're doing any repair work. So it may be a little flexible, but I'll double check on it and when
Thank
it
you.
occurred.
I'm just curious, how many hours of police work would this represent?
There's 4 officers, and I don't know the time of it, Charlie, I'm sorry. From 6:30 until 10. So there's 4 officers, from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m.
This is down at the Berlin Fairgrounds, right?
yeah, I think so, yeah, right? Yeah,
Yes, it will be
believe
at the
so.
fairgrounds, you're right.
That's 3.5 hours.
14 hours.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, so again,
Okay,
just,
good.
again, the great charity, I mean, obviously, the Berlin Lions, great supporter of our town and supporter of them, but just so we add it to the list, and Kate, if you can update the other, whatever it might be, so we're just aware of, what kind of number we look at as we go forward with different budgets.
Definitely.
So, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand.
Yep.
If we waive that fee, the
Yes.
officer doesn't make $275 for half a day's work, correct?
I don't think it's not only the salary, it also would be the benefits and everything, it's all the
It's actually out of pocket for the town at $1,500.
Right. It's all the everything
'Cause,
else that goes along with Social Security,
when we-
or their pension.
Maybe a
or whatever.
vehicle.
Job, if we hire an officer, it's about $700 for a full day, about $350 for half
Yeah.
a day, right? I understand they make money on those officers. I thought perhaps we weren't actually donating all that money. That would be the fee if a contractor had to hire the officer, but maybe it doesn't really cost that much, was my point.
It's probably, I'm guessing it's plus the bennies, plus the social,
Yeah,
it's the
I
whole
think it's
paycheck, right?
standard. Again, I'll double check on it.
So maybe a vehicle.
I apologize, but I think it's just kind of a standard. Whenever they go to waive the fees, they use the same calculation.
Well, I'm trying to find out where that comes from. That's
Yeah.
all. Thank you.
No, I understand that. Private duty would be higher.
Okay.
So what Attorney D'Onofrio was saying, there may be a higher cost because it's private duty compared to having a police officer on the street.
Correct, but I was always under the impression that the town actually made money on the private duty.
On the private duty.
So therefore, the actual out-of-pocket cost for that officer wouldn't quite be that much.
All right, I can email you tomorrow. I will let everybody know tomorrow about it. Okay?
Okay, did we, make a motion yet?
Sure. No, I will do it.
Okay.
Move to approve waiving the police fees for the Berlin Lions Club 2019 Berlin Charities Wine and Beer Tasting Event for 4 officers in the amount of $1,500.
Second.
Thank you. Any further, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. We are at the end here, right? Where are we at?
Just have to mention this, right?
Oh, let's, yeah, so, well, we're at the town manager's report, right? So,
I don't have a report from Mr. Healy. He had to leave, as you have explained. But I do want to let you know that the Helen Malinka contacted us this morning, and she did receive the grant for the social worker at the library.
oh, good.
So that's one thing I know about.
That's
All
great.
right.
Thank you for sharing that.
That's all good. Okay, yeah, I don't know of anything else, think of any updates.
No, the only other thing, I'm sorry, is that we're doing the walking competition again.
Oh, yeah.
That will start April 28th, and I would encourage everybody to sign up for it. It's a fun event, and I guess there's a target on our back because we keep winning it.
Winning.
So we want to keep it in Berlin. You know,
Keep the gold sneaker here.
yeah, there you go.
You don't want me on a date.
Every little bit helps.
Uh,
You know.
fudge the number a little bit, Peter, maybe. Oh, shh, let's say that. Okay, so town manager, I'm trying to think of anything else that's going on that I could think of. Nothing.
The only other thing, I'm sorry, would
Yes.
be the referendum.
Oh,
The
yeah.
referendum will be April 30th.
Right.
All polling places are open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. We did put it on Facebook today, I think.
Good.
And it's been posted on the website for the past couple of days. Absentee ballots are available in the town clerk's office, and I hope people will go out and vote.
Where are they located,
It's the regular polling places.
no, the absentee ballots?
Oh, in the town clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, get the word out there so people know to go
We'll have
vote.
police, right, at the schools?
Yes, in fact, the chief called me Monday, I think, about it. So he will have officers in the school.
Remember what Alex said, that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes. Right, last
that,
year.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, that echoes in my little mind that,
Yes.
you know, you got people, walking around.
I saw little kiddos running right by me, and
Yeah.
I just hate to think the worst.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
That came up, some other town brought that up. I saw it in a newspaper article a
Yeah.
couple months ago. Somebody else brought that up.
April 30.
Yeah.
Putting it in my calendar.
Just so we know, the only thing I can think of is just have, we're moving forward with interviews for the security director for the school. And I don't know where that stands. I'm not really involved in the initial interviews, but we are talking also to, we're going to talk to a couple of attorneys tomorrow just about, I guess there's some concerns. There's some MOU we're going to have to do, I guess, between the town and the Board of Ed, just regarding the armed officers. Some of it has to do with storage of their weapons, where they're going to store it, what they're going to do with them. They're going to leave them there. They're going to bring them home. You know, there's just a lot of issues like that. That obviously some other towns. I asked the superintendent. He was going to check with. It seems like Glastonbury is very similar to what Berlin is doing. So we're trying to find out. We just want to make sure legally it's covered, and then obviously that we're safe in how we will conduct the business with those security officers. So we're going to talk to superintendent tomorrow, town manager, and attorneys from Shippen and Goodwin that are experts in that area. So we're just trying to move forward with that process and hopefully get the goal, obviously, is to get the security director hired, I think, by the end of May or sooner, and obviously get all the officers hired before the start of school in September would be the goal if we could get there. So that's that. Okay, so nothing else on that. Special committee reports.
The only thing I want to say about the Fields Committee, I just want to, thank Peter. He's been pretty active, making sure that the condition of our fields are in our minds and our topics, and bringing them up to the town manager to make sure somehow we fix our fields. And it's glad that finally, I know it took some time, but get Scully's Field finished.
Thank you.
The only other meeting we had was the ordinance committee. I think we're going to bring some things to a conclusion. And I think we had, one of the best things I heard so far in talking about senior tax relief for our seniors. I think we're talking about now perhaps a tax credit is something that was brought up last time, and it seems like that might be very, let's put it this way, easier to implement than some of the other things we've been talking about. So we're going to explore that a little bit further. I think did we take a vote on the leash law? I can't remember where we.
I know that.
I forget where we ended up on that night. But
I know that the town manager was at the conservation committee.
Oh
meeting.
yes, we went to them. Correct.
Yes. All right. So that has been talked about, and I think that they asked for him to come back at the next meeting. So there has been discussion with conservation and everything. All right.
I think we left it with, we were talking about leash requirements throughout the town on sidewalks in neighborhoods, but possibly carving out an exception for bicentennial. We're not really sure what area that would be, but I think hence the visit to the Conservation Commission. I remember that's how we left off with that, see what they thought about it, where dogs would be allowed to be off the leash in certain areas.
I think we're talking about changing areas maybe from, the meadow. To shear, so, but we want to get the input from the, Conservation Commission on that.
Yeah, and so I know that, as I said, the town manager will be at their next meeting
Oh, that's good.
for the conversation. Okay.
And unfortunately, we've had some severe dog bites, which we were made aware of the last couple meetings, and some more, right? There was another one we were aware of that the last time, so on, sidewalks and on public streets, so let's push the discussion a little bit further, that information that we really have never, I guess, heard, but seems like it's escalating a little bit in town, just unfortunately, so. And we've had some people visit us with some severe dog bites and some horrific stories, so about dogs next door coming onto their property and biting them. So, we really have to work on that. People should not be afraid to go out in their backyards for fear of a dog biting them, or their neighbor's dog. So, again, still in discussions, but I think we're moving down the road with that a little bit, so that's good. That's the only one. I don't know when the next meeting of that is, so that brings us to Councilor Communications. Anybody?
I have something fun.
Yes, good.
So, considering what a hard meeting it's been, Saturday I went to the police open house, and I want to commend them. I thought they did a beautiful job, and I was talking to John Klett, and he it seemed really nice. It was really nice to see the officers. But the funny thing is, John was telling me that they got a call about the jail cells. You know about it, yeah. And so they've been asked if, and I'm sure it'll come before us, they want to donate the jail cells to another town. And I'm like, wow. But it was so that it could put them in a museum. Yes.
Wow.
A police museum? That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, but that's how old they are, that. So I thought it was pretty funny.
Maybe we should donate them to the Berlin Historical Society. Wait a minute.
There you go.
Before they leave town, wait a minute.
Donate them to the state police, they're all still metal.
On that note also, Keith mentioned to me that normally they don't really have many people in the cells at one time.
He mentioned to me, too.
And it just happened that they had 4, they were full.
A day?
Yeah.
Yes.
Day of the tour?
Yeah.
Saturday?
They couldn't show
no.
anybody the cell.
Oh, no, really? Oh, boy. Well, that's,
No.
I guess that bolsters our position to
It's
go
a
ahead
big
and.
day in Berlin.
Yeah, wow.
Friday night.
It was
Friday
pretty
night.
funny hearing him say that, though. I was like,
Wow.
really?
That is funny. Yeah, we should talk to, Lorraine
Yeah, we
Stubbs,
should ask
right?
Jack what the status of that is, because I keep seeing emails and I don't know what the status is between Berlin
I think.
and Orange or whatever,
Right.
Milford, whatever.
I think there was some delay with Orange, but I think the last I heard, it was moving forward.
Yeah, that's what
right?
he
Is
shared.
that what he said? We're moving forward, right?
Yeah.
I reviewed the contract weeks ago, so.
Okay, so we should be going forward? Okay.
I can check on the status and include that in the email.
And I just so, Mr. Lamagno stood up but it's been the understanding, it's been the discussion from the beginning. I know we talked about it on the council that in conjunction with that would be the locker room as well. And
The process has to be followed, I mean.
yeah, we can't just jump the process, but I,
Do that as a design build instead of spending money on an architect.
oh, okay, right, okay. Yeah, we'll make sure we're moving forward with that.
Yeah, go through public building.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Yeah.
You'd have to go through the Public Building Commission.
Yeah, it does. I just, because I don't think they looked at it in conjunction with the cell project, right? You didn't see anything on there with that. I know with some discussions with the architect, he was supposed to, I thought, do something, but we'll follow up on that, because we did want to use the funding, some of the funding for that. And I think the HVAC system obviously ties into the cell system, because we have to fix the HVAC there as well, right?
Yeah, because
So,
you have a glass enclosure or a plastic enclosure.
right,
so-
right. So I think a lot of that work that we need, from what I remember, it's been a while, because it's taken us a while to get to this point, was that when they fix some of that HVAC, it would also help the locker room, I believe. But we'll confirm that.
Yeah, I just want to echo the conditions there in the summer with no air condition, and you come off working a shift on the road, beating the pavement all day, and you go into that. It's almost worse to be in there than it is to be outside, and all the equipment and the vest you have to wear. It's I think it's well deserved for them. I think they want it, they deserve it, and I look forward to hopefully getting it resolved for them, and I know it was part of the plan, so hopefully we'll be good to go on
I
that.
just don't know why, really.
Sorry, I'm battling a sinus infection, so.
I just don't know why, until fairly recently, we never heard about that. I asked the union president that. I said, it sort of came out in the last year or so, but we never really, right? We never really, no one told us. How could they're air conditioned downstairs, right? And the police, how could the locker room not be air conditioned? I don't even understand how that has happened for so long.
They even have like those ductless units, which are a little less expensive.
Yeah.
Because it's just one room. so
Right.
you
I
get
think they have some portable
Yeah.
units in there, but I just don't know why that never came up in any discussions. Even I'm surprised it took so long. But whatever. It's here. We'll fix it. So that's a good thing. All right. That's it. So Council Communications, whatever else you guys have. Yes.
On a somber note, it seems I have to do this more often than I'd like. We lost a champion for the kids and education in general. Kathy Roby Briers, who was a classmate of mine, was a teacher in town, and when she retired, ran and won and served on the board, I think with you, right? On the Board of Ed.
We went to her memorial service. It was remarkable.
And
She was remarkable.
yeah, and after they needed her back, she left the school board and went back and was teaching. And she contracted something, I'll tell you in private, but
Really?
it was quick, but the kids lost a champion.
Yeah. She was she was an incredibly bright woman, but funny and vibrant and a humanitarian and an activist and, there were some fantastic stories that day from her family and friends that, I already knew that she was an exceptional individual, but I never realized just her life story and her history, and it was just incredible. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman. She taught languages, Spanish and French. And, just to give you an example of what she would do in a classroom is she would have a Spanish class and she would do the dating game. For those of us who know what that was. And she would have that as a class, but it all had to be completely spoken in Spanish or French. And then she went back to McGee a couple of years ago and filled in as a substitute there. And we were out one night, and she was just so concerned about her wardrobe, like she wanted to be hip and cool, and and have the kids relate to her the way they did years ago. She was just a really special woman.
Yeah, I would second that. I had her as a Spanish teacher in high school here. I think she was a brand new teacher then.
Yeah.
Might have been her first year or second year.
Yeah, probably.
She's a great teacher. We enjoyed her. She was a lot of fun in the classroom. The students loved her. We loved her in that particular year. And yeah, I know. I saw that. She was not that old. So she's not old at all.
No. Well, I'd like to think so.
Well, no. I think we agree with that. But yeah, no, that was.
I have to second everything you guys said. I'm shocked. I missed that. I feel bad. I missed services. I didn't even know. She was my Spanish teacher too. She was a funny person, like Counselor Stetson indicated. She was different, and people remember her because of that. Yeah.
She was different. In a great way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that.
She didn't.
I know.
I adored her.
She didn't have any problem with calling me 10 o'clock at night to tell me what I did wrong.
She didn't have a problem with telling anybody.
And she was probably right, too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, thoughts with her family, and it's sad. Peter, you always seem to bring that up, but it's good you do.
Well,
it's good that you are on top of that for the council. We appreciate that, but we're so sorry for her family, and again, fond memories of her in Spanish class, no doubt about that. So, okay, any other communications? Nothing. Okay, so acceptance of minutes. We have.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the March 28th meeting minutes.
Second. No, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So moved. April 1st.
There's some absentee there.
Yes, you got.
I was absent.
I was absent.
All right. So yeah, Karen,
I can't vote on that.
Alex.
Apologize.
I was absent April 2nd?
No. The 28th.
March 28th.
Oh, so
Alex.
that's the one we just voted on, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, Karen, and
So-
Charlie actually were absent.
Abstain.
Can I abstain from that?
Yes.
You need to, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, so noted. Thank you. The next one,
Can I
April 1st.
change that second
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
line?
Yep.
Yes.
So amended.
So it's so amended, so approved. The next one, we all were there.
Okay.
April 1st, take a motion.
Motion to accept the special town council meeting minutes of April 1st.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. The next one, the second, we were all there.
Motion to accept the April 2nd town council meeting minutes.
Second.
All right, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the third is the last one, we were all there. Yep.
Motion to accept the Wednesday, April 3rd meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. And did we make a motion? Obviously, we're not having this executive session.
You don't have to make any motion
No,
at
it's
all.
not
You
gonna-
can just go ahead to adjourn if you're not going to do the executive.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
Moved. Second. All those in
Backwards.
favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved. Thank you.